Welcome back to Bates Report. For the latest Katie Bates updates and exclusive content, subscribe now and hit the like button. When fans first began noticing subtle changes inside the ever-expanding world of the bringing up Bates family, many assumed it was simply the natural evolution of a large reality television household growing older, getting married, raising children, and moving into separate seasons of life. But over the past several months, viewers who have followed the Bates family for years started paying closer attention to emotional comments, quieter social media moments, and deeply personal reflections shared by Katie Clark herself. And now, one heartbreaking phrase is creating a massive emotional reaction among longtime fans across America. Katie says 90% turned away. That emotional statement, whether interpreted literally, emotionally, or spiritually by viewers, has triggered intense conversations online about loyalty, sisterhood, emotional isolation, and what truly happens behind the polished image of reality television families after the cameras stop rolling. Because for years, the Bates family represented something many Americans found comforting. Big family dinners. Tight sibling bonds. Shared faith. Strong values. Smiling family photos. Celebrations. Weddings. Babies. Traditions. Togetherness. The image presented on television felt almost untouchable. And while fans understand that no family is perfect, many are now asking a difficult question: what happens when someone inside a family begins feeling emotionally abandoned? Tonight, we're taking a deeper look into the emotional conversation surrounding Katie Clark, the sisters who reportedly stayed closest to her during difficult seasons, and why this story is resonating so strongly with viewers all across the country. And what makes this story especially emotional is that this isn't about explosive scandals or tabloid headlines. It's about something far more relatable. Feeling alone. Feeling unsupported. Feeling like people disappear when life becomes complicated. And for many viewers watching at home, that pain feels deeply personal. Because millions of Americans know exactly what it feels like when support systems change. Friendships fade. Family dynamics shift. People become distant. Priorities change. Marriages happen. Children arrive. Geography separates loved ones. And suddenly, the people who once promised to always be there become harder to reach. So when Katie Clark appeared emotional while reflecting on who remained beside her during difficult moments, fans immediately connected with the vulnerability behind those words. And perhaps even more powerful than the sadness itself was the overwhelming attention placed on the sisters who reportedly never left her side. Because in moments of emotional struggle, people remember loyalty forever. As discussions surrounding the Bates family continue growing online, fans are now revisiting years of family interactions, public appearances, social media posts, and sibling relationships to better understand the emotional reality behind the headlines. And tonight, we're diving into the full story. To truly understand why Katie Clark's emotional reflections have impacted viewers so strongly, it's important to first understand the unique world she grew up in. The Bates family became nationally known through reality television, first gaining exposure through appearances connected to other large conservative Christian families before eventually building their own successful platform through Bringing Up Bates. The show focused heavily on family unity, faith-based values, and the close relationships between parents and children. For many fans, the series became comfort television. Unlike high-conflict reality shows built around scandal and chaos, Bringing Up Bates largely emphasized positivity, humor, family celebrations, and emotional warmth. Viewers watched the Bates children grow up in real time. Audiences saw courtships begin, engagements announced, weddings planned, babies born, and entire households evolve. Katie Clark, one of the younger Bates daughters, developed a particularly strong following among viewers because of her soft-spoken personality, emotional openness, and relatable transition into married life. Fans watched her navigate courtship, wedding planning, relocation, and eventually motherhood. And as often happens with reality television personalities who mature publicly, audiences began feeling personally invested in her emotional well-being. But life after reality television can be complicated. When a television series ends or public attention shifts, many reality personalities suddenly experience a dramatic change in structure, visibility, and even relationships. Public expectations remain high while private struggles become more difficult to navigate. And in families as large and interconnected as the Bates household, maintaining identical closeness with every sibling becomes increasingly difficult over time. That reality is something many experts who study family systems frequently discuss. In very large families, emotional closeness naturally shifts in different seasons of life. Some siblings become closer through geography. Others bond through parenting stages. Some drift apart unintentionally because of careers, marriage responsibilities, or lifestyle differences. But social media complicates everything. Because today, fans analyze every interaction. Who comments on whose posts? Who visits whom? Who appears in family photos? Who seems absent? Who celebrates milestones together? Who travels together? Who looks emotionally connected? And who suddenly seems distant? For public families, these observations often turn into widespread speculation almost overnight. In recent months, viewers noticed growing emotional undertones in Katie Clark's online presence and public conversations. Some fans interpreted certain comments as signs that she had experienced disappointment or emotional distance from people she once expected support from. Others believed she was simply reflecting honestly about adulthood and changing relationships. But regardless of interpretation, one thing became very clear: audiences sensed genuine emotion behind her words. And that emotion sparked enormous empathy online. Across social media platforms, fans began sharing personal stories about losing closeness with siblings, navigating loneliness after marriage, relocating away from family, and struggling to maintain support systems during emotionally difficult seasons. For many viewers, this stopped being merely celebrity gossip. It became human. And that emotional relatability is precisely why this story exploded. Because beneath the reality television branding and public image is a young woman navigating the same emotional complexities millions of Americans experience every day. One of the most discussed aspects of the conversation surrounding Katie Clark has been the attention placed on which sisters remained consistently supportive during difficult moments. Fans have spent weeks analyzing public interactions between the Bates sisters, looking for clues about emotional closeness and loyalty. While it's important not to overstate unconfirmed speculation, viewers have repeatedly highlighted several sibling relationships that appear especially strong. Many fans point to Katie's connection with certain sisters as evidence of lasting emotional trust that has continued despite changing life circumstances. Whether through social media engagement, family visits, shared milestones, or emotional encouragement, supporters believe some siblings have remained deeply present in her life even during emotionally difficult seasons. And viewers notice everything. A supportive comment. A surprise visit. A shared photograph. A heartfelt birthday tribute. A quiet moment during family gatherings. To outsiders, those details may seem insignificant. But to dedicated followers of reality television families, they become emotional indicators of deeper relationships. What's particularly interesting is how audiences emotionally interpret loyalty inside large families. Fans are often drawn less to perfection and more to consistency. The sibling who quietly shows up repeatedly tends to receive enormous admiration from viewers. And in Katie's situation, many fans believe certain sisters demonstrated exactly that kind of unwavering support. The emotional reaction online has been overwhelming. Across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook groups, Reddit discussions, and YouTube comment sections, thousands of viewers have debated the meaning behind Katie's emotional reflections. Some believe her words reveal deep hurt. Others think fans may be reading too much into isolated comments. But nearly everyone agrees on one thing: the emotional honesty resonated. And perhaps the reason it resonated so powerfully is because American audiences are currently living through an era of emotional disconnection themselves. Experts continue documenting growing loneliness across the United States. Families live farther apart. Social circles shrink with adulthood. Parenting pressures increase. Economic stress rises. Digital interaction often replaces face-to-face support. As a result, stories about emotional loyalty hit harder than ever. People crave dependable relationships. And when viewers hear someone say that 90% turned away, whether metaphorically or emotionally, many instantly think about their own lives. Who disappeared when things became difficult? Who stayed? Who checked in? Who quietly walked away? Who remained loyal? That emotional reflection transforms celebrity content into something deeply personal. At the same time, public fascination with large reality television families has evolved significantly in recent years. Earlier eras of family-based reality programming often emphasized wholesomeness and idealized family structures. But modern audiences increasingly seek authenticity over perfection. They want emotional honesty. Not staged happiness. Not curated perfection. Not polished branding. They want vulnerability. And ironically, emotional pain often creates stronger audience connection than polished success ever could. That may explain why Katie Clark's emotional reflections generated more intense public discussion than many celebratory family updates. Because audiences recognize real emotion immediately. As conversations intensified online, some viewers began revisiting older episodes of Bringing Up Bates, examining sibling dynamics with entirely new perspective. Moments once viewed as ordinary family interactions are now being interpreted through the lens of emotional loyalty and distance. This phenomenon is extremely common in modern fandom culture. Once audiences believe emotional tension exists, they reinterpret previous content searching for hidden meaning. A simple interaction becomes symbolic. A missed gathering becomes suspicious. A short comment becomes emotionally loaded. But experts in media culture caution against assuming social media provides a complete picture of family relationships. Public appearances reveal only fragments of real life. Families often experience seasons of closeness and distance that have nothing to do with conflict. Parenthood, careers, travel schedules, health concerns, and private responsibilities can drastically alter relationship visibility online. Still, even with those limitations, fans continue feeling emotionally invested in Katie's story because they sense authenticity in her vulnerability. And vulnerability is powerful. Especially in a digital culture dominated by performance. Another reason this story has captured so much attention is because Katie Clark's public image has historically been associated with sweetness, optimism, and emotional warmth. Audiences often react more strongly when emotionally gentle personalities appear hurt or isolated. It creates protective instinct among fans. People want reassurance that kind-hearted individuals are supported. And in the world of reality television, viewers frequently develop almost familial emotional attachments to personalities they've watched for years. For longtime Bringing Up Bates viewers, Katie isn't simply a television figure. Many feel like they watched her grow up. They witnessed her life transitions. They celebrated her milestones. They empathized with her fears and excitement during major life changes. So when emotional sadness appears, audiences respond intensely. This emotional investment is one reason reality television remains such a dominant force in American culture. Unlike scripted entertainment, audiences believe they are emotionally connected to real people. And when those people hurt, fans often hurt alongside them. Meanwhile, social media algorithms further amplify emotionally charged narratives. Content discussing family tension, loyalty, heartbreak, and emotional isolation spreads rapidly because it triggers strong engagement. People comment more, share more, Debate more. The emotional economy of the internet rewards emotionally loaded stories. That doesn't necessarily mean speculation is always accurate. But it does explain why discussions surrounding Katie Clark have spread so rapidly across online communities. Adding another layer to the conversation is the broader cultural discussion surrounding women, emotional labor, and family expectations. Many female viewers especially connected with the idea of being emotionally available for others while feeling unsupported themselves. That experience is incredibly common. Women often serve as emotional caretakers within families, friendships, and marriages. When support is not reciprocated, the emotional impact can feel devastating. Some fans believe Katie's emotional reflections indirectly touched on that reality. Again, without making unverified assumptions about specific relationships, audiences are clearly projecting broader emotional experiences onto this story. And perhaps that projection explains why reactions have become so passionate. Because viewers are not merely discussing Katie Clark. They are discussing themselves. Their own disappointments. Their own sibling relationships. Their own emotional wounds. Their own experiences with abandonment and loyalty. That emotional mirror effect is one of the most powerful dynamics in modern online culture. At the same time, supporters of the Bates family have also emphasized the importance of compassion and restraint. Many viewers argue that families deserve privacy and that public speculation can sometimes create unnecessary tension where none exists. That perspective is important. Large families naturally evolve. Adult siblings become busy. Relationships fluctuate over time. Distance does not always equal conflict. And public audiences rarely possess complete information. Still, emotional storytelling remains central to how audiences interpret reality television personalities. And right now, Katie Clark's story has become one of emotional resilience, loyalty, and the search for dependable support systems. Another major factor fueling public interest is the ongoing fascination with what happens after reality television fame fades. Shows like Bringing Up Bates created highly recognizable family brands. But once cameras disappear, viewers become intensely curious about how relationships survive without the structure of production schedules, shared filming experiences, and public visibility. Reality television often creates unusual emotional environments. Families spend years performing together publicly. Their relationships become part entertainment product, part personal reality. Then suddenly, that shared professional experience changes or disappears altogether. That transition can alter dynamics dramatically. Some siblings grow closer privately. Others drift naturally. Some embrace public influence careers. Others seek quieter lives. Fans watching from outside frequently struggle to adjust to those changes because they became emotionally attached to a specific version of the family presented on television. And that emotional tension between public image and private evolution creates endless online discussion. For Katie Clark, becoming a wife and mother while simultaneously navigating public attention likely introduced enormous emotional complexity. Many viewers who relocated away from their families after marriage immediately recognized signs of homesickness and emotional adjustment in her journey. Moving away from familiar support systems can feel deeply isolating. Even within healthy marriages. Even with loving spouses. Even during joyful seasons. Motherhood itself can also dramatically intensify emotional sensitivity and the need for support. Experts consistently note that new mothers often reevaluate friendships, sibling relationships, and family expectations during major life transitions. Support suddenly matters differently. Who calls consistently? Who checks in? Who makes effort? Who shows up during difficult moments? These questions become emotionally significant. And many viewers suspect Katie's reflections emerged from exactly those kinds of deeply personal realizations. The public response has also revealed something fascinating about American family culture. Despite political divisions, economic stress, and cultural polarization, stories about family loyalty continue uniting audiences emotionally. People care deeply about relationships, especially sibling relationships. Because unlike friendships or romantic partnerships, sibling bonds carry lifelong emotional history. Shared childhoods create emotional connections that audiences often view as sacred. So when conversations arise suggesting emotional distance between siblings, viewers respond with extraordinary intensity. That's exactly what we're witnessing now. And perhaps the most emotional aspect of this entire story is the idea that even individuals surrounded by enormous families can still experience loneliness. That realization hits many viewers hard. Because outward appearances can be deceiving. A person can be surrounded by people and still feel unsupported. A person can smile publicly while struggling privately. A person can belong to a famous family and still feel emotionally isolated. Those truths resonate far beyond celebrity culture. They reflect universal human experience. As social media conversations continue evolving, many fans have shifted focus away from speculation and toward appreciation for the sisters who reportedly remained close to Katie during emotionally difficult periods. Viewers repeatedly praise acts of consistency and emotional presence. And interestingly, audiences often value quiet loyalty more than dramatic gestures. A simple check-in. A late-night conversation. A supportive visit. An encouraging message. Those moments matter deeply during difficult seasons. Fans discussing Katie's story seem especially moved by the idea that a small number of dependable relationships can outweigh larger circles of inconsistent support. That message carries enormous emotional weight in modern American culture, where many people increasingly prioritize smaller but more meaningful relationships over large social networks. In some ways, this story reflects a broader societal shift. People are becoming more emotionally selective, more protective of their energy, more aware of emotional reciprocity. And conversations about loyalty have become central to how Americans evaluate relationships today. Another fascinating dimension of this story involves parasocial relationships, the emotional bonds audiences develop with public figures. Researchers studying digital culture note that audiences often feel genuine emotional attachment to reality personalities because they observe intimate life moments over extended periods. Birthdays, weddings, births, family celebrations, emotional conversations. Over time, viewers feel personally connected. That connection explains why audiences react so emotionally when someone like Katie Clark appears vulnerable. Fans feel protective. They want reassurance that she's okay. They want to identify supportive people around her. They want emotional resolution. This dynamic is particularly strong among family-centered reality television audiences because the programming itself emphasizes emotional intimacy and relatability. And unlike scripted dramas, viewers perceive these relationships as real. As discussions surrounding Katie continue trending, media analysts also point to another reason this story resonates so strongly. Emotional transparency is increasingly rare among influencers and public figures. Most online content emphasizes perfection. Perfect marriages. Perfect homes. Perfect parenting. Perfect happiness. But audiences are growing exhausted by overly curated digital lives. When someone publicly acknowledges emotional pain, viewers often respond with relief because it feels authentic. Katie's emotional openness, whether intentional or not, may have created exactly that effect. Viewers saw humanity instead of branding. And humanity connects. Meanwhile, supporters of the Bates family continue emphasizing that viewers should avoid turning emotional reflections into damaging assumptions. Public audiences rarely understand the full complexity of family relationships, especially within large households navigating adulthood, marriage, careers, and parenting. that caution matters. Because internet speculation can sometimes intensify emotional pressure unnecessarily. Still, the emotional themes at the center of this conversation remain deeply compelling regardless of specific family details. Loyalty, distance, support, loneliness, sisterhood, emotional resilience. Those themes transcend celebrity culture entirely. And perhaps that's why this story continues spreading across platforms. It feels real. Looking ahead, many fans are wondering whether Katie Clark will address these emotional conversations more directly in future interviews, videos, or social media posts. Some believe she may eventually clarify what she meant. Others think she will intentionally keep details private. And honestly, that privacy may be important. Not every emotional experience requires public explanation. Not every family dynamic belongs online. Sometimes vulnerability itself is enough. At the same time, public curiosity surrounding the Bates family is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. Reality television audiences remain deeply invested in the long-term evolution of families they spent years watching on screen. And stories centered around emotional loyalty almost always generate lasting engagement because they touch universal fears and desires. Fear of abandonment. Desire for dependable love. Hope for unconditional support. Those emotions drive human connection itself. As this conversation continues unfolding online, one thing remains undeniable: viewers care deeply about Katie Clark. Not simply because she appeared on television. Not simply because she belongs to a famous family. But because people recognized something emotionally honest in her vulnerability. And in an age dominated by filtered perfection and curated identities, emotional honesty has become incredibly powerful. The sisters who reportedly stayed beside her during difficult moments are receiving enormous admiration from fans because loyalty feels increasingly rare in modern culture. People remember who stayed. Especially when life becomes difficult. That truth may ultimately become the emotional heart of this entire story. Not who walked away. Not who became distant. Not who disappointed expectations. But who remained present. Who answered the phone. Who showed compassion. Who showed consistency. Who quietly stood beside someone hurting. Those relationships matter most. And for viewers watching this emotional story unfold, that message may be the one that lingers long after the headlines fade. Because beyond reality television, beyond social media speculation, beyond internet debate, this story reminds audiences of something deeply human. People never forget who stayed with them during hard seasons of life. And perhaps that's why America is paying such close attention right now. Because in Katie Clark's emotional reflections, millions of viewers saw pieces of their own story. If you've been following the Bates family for years, we want to hear from you. Do you think fans sometimes read too deeply into social media moments, or do emotional patterns usually reveal something real beneath the surface? And which sibling relationships inside the Bates family have always stood out to you as the strongest and most genuine? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive family update and want more detailed coverage surrounding reality television families, celebrity news, and emotional stories shaping online culture, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next report.